Welcome back to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit, where qualifying will begin shortly. Today's qualifying should be an interesting affair, as the drivers try to put in their best laps on this fascinating circuit.
It's difficult to predict who's going to master this circuit when it really matters. This 4.4 kilometre track will certainly provide a mix of challenges to both the drivers and their cars. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to come out on top.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to now episode 17 of Button Bounces back, our F1 2015 career mode that we've been doing. And episode 17 means there's now only 3 races left to go in this entire series, including today's. We've got today's, which is the Mexican Grand Prix. The penultimate race of the season is at Brazil, and then the final race, I believe, is at Abu Dhabi. And then this whole series, this whole season with Jenson Button will be done and dusted. But before we get too far into things, it would be absolutely awesome if you throw a thumbs up on the video if you are still enjoying the series, and a vote of confidence for Jenson Button that we can nail down this 6th place finish in the driver's standings. And also make sure to subscribe if you are new around here. But as you can see, if you couldn't tell from the first sectors here, we've once again found ourselves on a track with good pace. I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago, but the last 3 or 4 races, majority of them suit this McLaren a lot more. They're a lot less reliant on, well, I wouldn't say they're a lot less reliant on top speed, but there just seems to be computers that, there seems to be corners, that we seem to be able to take better than the computer for some reason. We get a little bit lucky there with a bit of corner cutting, but yeah, there's just seems to be a few corners that we just seem to be able to nail a lot better than the computer here for some reason. Not entirely sure why, whether it's just the McLaren being better in the corners or just whether it's the computer being a bit crap, but we do seem to have pace around here nevertheless. And as you can see, we're coming round what I think is actually the trickiest corner of the track now. That one seems to really suck you out wide. It's sort of the penultimate corner, I suppose you could say, if you count this last sweeping right as well. And we actually come home in 5th place, which is once again another fantastic qualifying session. And once again we find ourselves ahead of the Williams of Massa, which is the main thing at this point in time, with us competing with him in the championship. We're going to hand over to the commentators again now, and we can set the scene for the Grand Prix.
It's Sunday, and that means it's race day here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. The cars are being prepared. Let's join them trackside for the start of the Mexican Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton starts on pole today, and with the blistering pace he's shown all weekend long, it shouldn't come as a surprise if he leaves the opposition in his wake during the race today.
There are a lot of variables that can cause a driver to be happy with the car one day to struggling with it the next. Track temperature, excessive tyre wear, or a change of fuel load can all affect the feel of a car. He'll definitely be hoping that when the race gets underway, he's got the same balance as he enjoyed in qualifying.
How important is a good start for Lewis today?
Ensuring he gets a clean getaway is vital. After all, winning championships is all about consistently scoring points and keeping the momentum going, and so he doesn't want to find himself in a vulnerable position going into turn 1.
So here we are then, we're sitting on the grid waiting for the 5 light set of the Mexican Grand Prix, and we are now officially go. And this Mexican Grand Prix, I should actually mention, is one that I'm pretty sure is new on the calendar for this year, for the F1. I don't think it's a completely new circuit. I think it's one that I have done in the past, but it's just been brought back this year, I'm pretty sure. But as you can see from the start, we lose a place to the Williams. However, we take the first corner immaculately. We're going between 3 cars pretty much there and get all the way up to 3rd place. We then have a little bit of a run on Rosberg. However, we just don't quite have the power under the hood to be able to get up with him, really. He just pulls away a little bit onto this straight. As always, we will be watching the entire first lap, but what a start that is. Up from 5th into 3rd place, and we then actually go on the outside of Rosberg all the way into 2nd, and at this point in time there is only championship leader Lewis Hamilton that is ahead of us on track, and it is an absolutely awesome start. I should probably mention at this point as well, after the disaster in the last race strategy-wise, I decided to go back to the regular strategy, so we are on the quicker tyre to begin with, and then we'll be going on to the slower tyre at the end, which is the sort of regular strategy. As we get corner cutting again on that corner, and I think it gives it you far too easily there, but Hamilton's pulling away a little bit, but we have actually got a decent-ish gap to Rosberg, who is the car behind us in 3rd place, and at this point I was hoping we could extend that gap more than anything to Felipe Massa, who is who we're competing with, and Ricciardo, I should mention, in the Drivers' Championship. Extend that gap with just a couple of races left to go. We could really nail down that position, but as we cross the line to go on to our 2nd lap of the Mexican Grand Prix, you can see the inevitable's happening. Rosberg is absolutely reeling us in, flies past us and we're down into 3rd place. But you'll see again, there's a little bit of a gap to Kimi Raikkonen in 4th, and we do in fact manage to hold him off for a little bit longer just yet. We can't quite get enough of a close the gap in enough to go into a challenge with Rosberg to get the position back, and he does pull away again on his straight, as you'd imagine. But you can see we're actually now on lap 3, entering lap 4, and the only bloody reason the computer caught up was because DRS had been enabled, which is an absolute kick in the balls, and that, you know, we don't have enough power as it is already. You can see now 3 cars come sailing past us. I believe it's Bottas, Raikkonen and Vettel, but there's a little bit of a mini scrap between Bottas and Vettel, and we managed to just about take advantage of that. We cut back on the inside, just about getting past them. Raikkonen's long gone into the distance. We now got Vettel and Bottas behind us, and we're ahead of Massa still, and we're going to jump a little bit further on into this lap, and there's a bit of a disaster. You can see Vettel's going on the inside. We hold a tidy outside line, it would seem, but then, oh lads, what is it with me and bloody incidents on this career mode? You can see it now with from Vettel's point of view. We've just sort of come across him a little bit, and we'll see it now in slow motion from a sort of cinematic point of view. And I've watched this back many times, and I think if anyone's at fault, it's me, because I do slightly come across, even though with the car in front, and Vettel I think should respect that, but I do honestly believe that this, more than anything, is just a racing incident, and I don't think there was too much that either of us did massively wrong that could have resulted in this being avoided. I could have stuck to the left a bit more and stayed off track. He could have like tucked in behind a bit more, obviously not gone near us. But I think at the end of the day, despite the fact that Jeff, the mechanic, telling us it was a risky move basically that we could have been punished for, I think that was very much a racing incident personally. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, but you'll see it does push us all the way back into 10th place. Thankfully we were reasonably close to the end of the lap, so we can pit in straight away and get that fixed. But I was really hoping that this would mean that we wouldn't have to do a 2-stop strategy now. We'd just be able to get the wing change, tyres on, and then we could go to the end. And thankfully, that does turn out to be the case. As we'll see in a second, he says that is our last stop of the strategy. So although we are down in 19th place, I was confident that if we could put in some solid lap times, we could try and get, not perhaps as high as we were before, but definitely back in the points. As you can see, we're coming at the points, and he says to us that is our last stop of the strategy. So that was a bit of a relief, because it could have been a lot worse. We pick up 18th place off Maldonado, I think it is, who actually had an engine blowout, so that was the first position that we're going back. And then we come round the corner onto lap 8. Everyone started pitting in there. This is when we should have originally been pitting in, and we jump all the way up to 14th, is it? Yeah, 14th. But the one thing you have to bear in mind now, we have got at this point a lot more pace than everyone else on track. So our tyres are warmed up, we're back in the groove, everyone else is on cold tyres. However, towards the end of the race, our tyres are going to be absolutely screwed, because they're going to be going on for 3 laps longer than was originally intended. You see, we get past Verstappen very easily. Like I just mentioned, we have at the moment got the better car really, because we've got the quicker tyres. And at this point we find ourselves racing against our teammate Fernando Alonso, something that hasn't happened very often at all this series. However, whenever we do get behind him, he always seems to yield really easily, and that's the case once again. We take the inside line, he gives it to us nice and easy, and we get up into 12th place. You can see we're still in 12th place, but now we're tucked behind Nico Hülkenberg. We've got DRS at this point, and we managed to take him into this corner, and ahead of him, fair play, is Will Stevens just inside the points. And I felt really bad, because I mean, Will Stevens for bloody Mana Marussia, I think he drives for, I'm pretty sure, or is it Force India? No, Will Stevens is definitely Marussia. We're tucked behind him, and we could potentially be taking points away from Mana, who never ever get points. They've got no points at all yet this series, but with the situation that we're in, of course, there is no place for mercy. We fly past him, get into 10th place, and we're now up in the points. Still in 10th place now. You can see someone else is pitted in. I think that was Hülkenberg off the top of my head. So we jump up into 9th place. Oh no, sorry, it was Kvyat, Danny Kvyat. So we jump up into 9th place, and then we're going to jump forward all the way to the last lap. And Massa, you can see, is the car ahead of us, unfortunately. He was obviously our title contender, not title contender, sorry, championship contender in the drivers. We were reeling him in and reeling him in and reeling him in. Then our tyres got to that point where they were absolutely screwed. Our tyres were so bad for the last couple of laps, it allowed Hülkenberg to reel us in. I think it's Hülkenberg and Verstappen that are behind me at this point, but you just see how quickly their bloody catches up now. We got a warning for corner cutting now. I mean, it didn't corner cut at all, we just ran very wide because we didn't have the grip, but they absolutely reel us in on this last lap, and I was just praying to God that we'd be able to hold on to 9th place to keep the points and just hopefully minimise the amount of distance that Massa will gain on us on the championship. Because at this point he is going to finish ahead of us. Hopefully he will stay in 8th and we'll stay not, so it won't be too much damage, but it's still Hülkenberg in 10th place. We've got a decent gap, but you can see compared to the laps I was doing earlier on, the pace we've got now is absolutely shocking, and you can see he's right up behind us now. We passed them ages ago, if you remember rightly. I think it was sort of lap 12, lap 11 we passed them, and they've slowly been catching us up as the tyres wore off. Go in the last corner there, you can see the right of our backside, but they haven't quite got enough. We end up finishing in 9th place, which, again, similarly to in Russia, it's points, and points are good, but with where we qualified and the pace that we seem to have, it is honestly really, really disappointing. You can see Massa finished in 8th place just ahead of us. Daniel Ricciardo finished all the way up in 5th place, unfortunately for us, so he'll be reeling in a load of points on us. But we somehow still are holding on to 6th place in the Drivers' Championship, as you will see in just a second. But that does bring us to the end of the Mexican, that's the word, the Mexican Grand Prix. You can see it's super tight now. We're on 102 points, Massa's on 100, and Ricciardo is on 98. So going into the last 2 races, it is incredibly close for that 6th place battle that we got going on with those with the 3 drivers. If you enjoyed it, like I said earlier, it'd be awesome if you throw a thumbs up on the video and subscribe if you're new around here. And I'll speak to you all tomorrow, where we should be doing some more FIFA 16 demo content. So I hope you're all looking forward to that. I'll speak to you there. Nidge out. Come on. Come on. Ronaldo! Ronaldo! He's not going to fit it. Oh my god, how are we going to fit Ronaldo in? We've got to take him. We get Suarez.